very pastel throughout just because it's so high, but in the faster paced, a little bit more intense sections, the colors get a little bit more vivid and brighter, and the light pinks turn into into brighter pinks, and some greens and oranges start coming in. And then definitely when it moves down near the end, I get a lot of dark green and some grays and oranges there too.
Hi there, and welcome to Cutting Class. I'm Jessica Arp, and the clip that you just watched is from A is Red. This is the first of 14 short documentary films we will be talking about today. All of these films were produced and edited by University of Wisconsin-Madison students as part of a journalism course. They can be seen on a class-created website seen here on the screen. The course, long-form video, is taught by Distinguished Faculty Associate Pat Hastings and our director, Peter Kleppen. I am hosting today as a journalism school alum and managing director of communications at the Wisconsin Foundation and Alumni Association. Again, the clip that you just watched was part of a film called A is Red, produced by our first student filmmaker today, Gabrielle Bruns, who examines the mind of an artist with synesthesia. Gabrielle, welcome. And I hope I said that right. Synesthesia. Yes. Can you tell us what that is and why it's important for us to learn about?
Sure. So for me, synesthesia is like this cross-sensory association that people make, with colors and numbers or textures and smells. And I would go as far to say it's, kind of like the sixth sense. And I think it's really important for people to learn about it just because not a lot of people know that they have it or that it exists. I have some friends that went years without realizing that it was an actual thing. So I think it's just important to, kind of share this fascinating way that people look at life.
What was really your inspiration behind this documentary?
Well, my inspiration kind of came from myself. I figured out I had synesthesia when I was about 8 or 9 and didn't realize it was a thing until my freshman year psychology professor talked about it in class. So I kind of wanted to show people how I perceive it and how, my mind works, and specifically how the artist in the documentary also perceives the world.
Well, that's a really interesting question. It's a hard thing to visualize. How do you take a subject like synesthesia that's very subjective, it's very unique to the person who's experiencing it, and show us a sensation that's occurring inside of their mind?
That was one of the main problems that I struggled with throughout the entire process. I kind of battled with how I was going to visualize it. And I think taking a musician and taking music, I think it was a little bit more easy to understand, especially for someone who's never heard of it. And also specifically focusing on just one case, since it is so subjective. It could get a little confusing if you start to add different perspectives and different angles that people perceive the world in. So focusing on one, I think, was the best route to take with this subject.
How did your concept of this really change as you went through the shooting and editing process? And is there anything that you wish you would have included in your final project?
It kind of started to change because I realized that it was such a complicated subject. I think because I know what it is, it was a little bit easier for me to grasp, but I had interviewed a few people, and when I started to put all of the footage together, it became a little overwhelming. So I pared it down and just focused on one person in particular, and I think that makes the whole topic of synesthesia a little easier to understand.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Gabrielle, for telling this story and for the way that you produced it. Really appreciate talking to you today as well. Now let's take a look at our next film. It is called Cover Girls, and it was produced by M. Giambi. That was a clip from Cover Girls from our next student filmmaker, M. Giambi. M, welcome. Welcome to the show. Tell me a little bit about what's going on in that clip.
So what you just saw are a series of short clips from the making of the documentary. I really wanted to capture the high energy, the performance atmosphere, the glitz and the glam that goes into Milwaukee's drag culture. So these are all from Milwaukee's or Wisconsin's first gay bar. It's called This Is It, in downtown Milwaukee. And as you can see, there's a lot going on at this bar, and I just kind of wanted to give everybody a little glimpse into what happens.
Like, what a fascinating and visual subject you chose. How did you choose this subject?
So, originally coming into this class, I didn't really know exactly which route I wanted to go. I just wanted to tell a story of a group of people or a person that isn't often told. So talking with some friends of mine, they thought that drag culture is something that's kind of up and coming, becoming a little bit more mainstream, but is still on its way. And so I kind of wanted to use this documentary as a way to bring awareness to this community, but also give them a platform to perform, make money, and entertain as many people as possible.
So how have documentaries that you maybe have done in the past influenced this piece in particular?
So I'm a sports gal. I came into this class, all my work I've done in the past has all been focused around sports. So this is kind of a 180 flip from that world. But as I made this documentary, I kind of drew a lot of parallels between, like the performances, and these performers are giving their whole hearts into what they do. This is part of who they are. This is how they want to be seen by the world. So it's kind of the being around athletes and making athletic documentaries kind of helped me be able to tell those stories in a way that really represented who these queens are. And now I can share their stories, which is great.
Absolutely. That's really interesting parallel to draw. Thank you so much for sharing your experience with us.
Thank you so much.
It. Now, our next film looks at neighborhoods and how a housing debate turned. Here is a clip from Build Up.
Anyone who does neighborhood advocacy work at the city level, at the state level, or at the federal level wakes up and gets out of bed because they're angry. Now, when you're in a neighborhood association dealing with this one project on 126 Langdon Street over and over and over again, that takes a toll on you personally. That makes you feel so frustrated that it burns you out. It makes you irritated. It makes you more irritable in other aspects of your life because you are still fighting for the same issues in ways that you shouldn't be because there are other things that should take up your time instead. Imagine you're a monkey in the forest. And laying on the ground, you find what psychologist Dr. Ramani calls a coconut that is too hard to crack. There's something in the coconut that the monkey really wants. Food, water, whatever it could be, treasure. The monkey really has the coconut. They've grabbed onto it, it's in their hands, and they want to hold it with them. They have looked everywhere around them for tools, techniques, and resources to break the coconut open and find what's inside. But year after year, they've tried and they've tried again. The coconut did not open, and the monkey starved to death. That can be one way of looking at the situation. What are you holding on to, and why are you holding on to it? Why does it matter to you so much, and what is the benefit that comes out of holding on to something so significant to you? And if it's significant to you, is it really significant to the people around you?
That was from Build Up by our next student film producer, Emma Axelrod. Emma, welcome to Cutting Class.
Thank you. Hi.
Yeah, can you tell us what this clip is about? And for those who are not in Madison, what is the Hub?
Yeah, sure. So the clip you just watched is a little glimpse into one of our main subjects of the documentary. Amal Goyal, a student leader focused on the student experience, specifically with neighborhood affordability and things of that nature. So the Hub 2 was a housing development project. It's a luxury apartment building, and it was presented at the Plan Commission, and it was proposed in a neighborhood which is predominantly historic mansions and Greek housing, and a lot of students live there. So people all across Madison had stake in this neighborhood, whether they wanted to increase options of affordable housing, expand luxury housing, protect historic neighborhoods. It was kind of an effort for all of these different things, which is a reason that there was so much debate surrounding this housing project.
Is there a perspective on the issue of housing affordability that you weren't able to get to in this documentary?
Yeah, definitely. So I was unable to speak to anyone that was in favor of the Hub 2 development project, although I did try and reach out to people. I don't know if this was necessarily a project that would be favorable to them. At the end of the day, the goal was to amplify the voices of advocates of affordable housing. And so I was just grateful that I was able to focus on those people. But in the end, I think it is important to try and get a holistic view of something. And so I do wish I was able to speak to some people that were really in favor of the Hub 2.
What was really the hardest part in this story for you?
Sure. So my subject was an inanimate object. So while some of my classmates were focused on really vibrant stories about specific people, I was focused on a building. So this was definitely a challenge when I was trying to capture shots that were both entertaining but also relevant to the housing story. So I ended up trying to build suspense surrounding the final decision for what ended up happening with the Hub 2 development project. But if you want to know what happens, you'll have to watch the full film to find that out.
Well, there's a tease if I ever heard one. Thank you. Thank you so much, Emma, for being here. We appreciate it, and great work.
Thank you.
Now, our next film is about the magic of teaching. Let's take a look at Vivian Tao's film.
How would you picture a life of a teacher? Like this? This? Or this? Here is the real life of being an English teacher in a small city in China. Mr. Feng and Miss Mi is the manager and the leading teacher of an institution named Magic of Reading. The whole concept of running this institution is to encourage students to read and learn English through reading. There are many challenges: the lack of great teachers, the communication and co-working between colleagues, and little fights between children, all of which add a little bit more on the burden of this team. But there is always one thing that supports them: the magic of teaching. Being a part of one's life is a huge thing. Being a teacher means being a part of all your students' lives, and being that magic part is a huge honor.
That was a short clip from The Magic of Teaching by our next student filmmaker, Vivian Tao. Vivian, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you. Hi.
Now, The Magic of Teaching is about a school in China that juggles educating children, managing staff, and running a business. And all that equals the magic of teaching. Can you explain that to our audience?
Sure. What I want to express through my documentary is what Miss Me and Mr. Fong learned when they were teaching. And the name of this institution is called Magic of Reading, and the reason why they name this way because they want their students to appreciate the power of reading and develop a habit of using reading as a tool to learn new things. So the magic of teaching is the same way I felt filming the video throughout the process of teaching, the responsibility they have as teachers, and their hard working achieve the success of this institution. And this is the magical power of teaching. They develop a habit of being the best of themselves through teaching.
Do you have different thoughts, or has your view changed on teaching since film?
Yes, definitely. Before filming this video, I don't know anything about teaching at all, and all my experience on teaching is what I observed teachers as a student. And filming this video gave me an opportunity to have the experience of being a teacher and seeing the way teachers see. So when I was shooting, I also can feel the happiness, excitement when playing with children, knowing that the children trust you as a teacher. And before, I think being a teacher is very hard. I don't know why people choose to be a teacher, but now I understand why so many people chose to become a teacher.
How do you deal with having a different language in your film, and how do you handle it in your documentary?
Since my documentary is about the story in China, although fortunately it's a story about children learning English, so the setting and prompts could be easily understood. Most of the clips, people are still speaking in Chinese, so I chose to have a voiceover by myself and make translation subtitle at the bottom while interviewing. So during the voiceover, I chose to show video clips that either includes English or could be easily interpreted. This way, the audience would focus on the background information when I was explaining what is happening in the video with English and focuses on the answer with English subtitle when Mr. Fong is answering interview questions.
That's fantastic. I mean, and great work doing all of that yourself. That's incredible. Thank you so much for making this, Vivian, and it was great talking with you about it today.
Thank you.
Our next film looks at graffiti as art. Here is a clip from Tagged.
Our whole lives, like as kids and stuff like that, you know, when you live in a place, your parents are like, don't write on the walls, don't write on the walls, you know? And then once you get into graffiti, that's exactly what you do, you know?
Like I'd see like some parks at my parks behind my mom's house when there was a bunch of construction, and I was about it, you know, and I was like, I'd even take a Sharpie marker and just go write something on it, and then have my grandmother come like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm sorry, Grandma, I just love this stuff. I can't help it. I feel like I gotta do it. I can't help it.
Street art for me is making art with no permission. Just getting out there. Yeah. I don't have to ask anyone. I don't have to go by anyone's schedule. It's all on me. Sometimes the art can't wait. Street art or graffiti, sometimes it really can't wait. You have to get out there.
That was from Tagged, and the film's producer, Zoe Bockhorst, joins me now. Zoe, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Yeah, can you tell me a little bit about who these artists were that we just saw in that clip?
For sure. So we saw Billy McCoy, Tony Cataruccia, and Mike Leroy, and those are 3 graffiti and street artists, all based in Madison.
Got it. How did your understanding and obviously explanation of street art change as the documentary progressed?
Right. Well, when I started this documentary, I really wanted to explore the interplay between graffiti and street art. And specifically, I wanted to understand what graffiti artists thought of street art because, it's such a mainstream form of art that we see in cities. And I kind of expected the graffiti artists to have an aversion to street art because it is this approved thing, that you go through these specific channels to get street art on city walls. But what I found was quite the opposite, that every artist that I talked to found street art to be a legitimate form of expression in a similar way to graffiti.
That's really interesting. We see that kind of art and murals everywhere now. Now that you have one story under your belt, what advice would you give to other folks who are thinking about producing a documentary?
I definitely did not expect the bulk of the work, at least for me, to come after I had finished shooting. That was something that I didn't know, going into documentary filmmaking. I kind of thought, I'll finish filming and then I'll edit my story together and that'll be all. But I really, once the filming stopped, is when the whole story kind of came together. So if I had one piece of advice to give to someone looking to create a documentary, it is to build in a lot of time for editing and for post-production and just creating the story, because that's really when it all comes together, is when you're done filming.
Excellent. Well, thank you and congratulations on this story, this project.
Thank you so much.
Now let's take a look at a clip from our next student film about the uplifting powers that psychics provide. Here is a clip from Psyched.
Authenticity is always more convincing than superficiality. Lies only lead to more lies. Trying to impress others through exaggeration leads to inner and outer turmoil. Honesty and authenticity lead to inner and outer peace.
Do you believe in psychics?
Psychics, as in people who can predict the future?
I would say I guess.
What I would say to somebody who does not believe in psychics is this. You are missing out on a ton of cool shit. My name is Tina Lupazovich, and I am the owner and clairvoyant psychic medium at Koi Psychic Services.
That was a clip from Psyched, which was produced, shot, and edited by our next student filmmaker, Keegan Schlosser. Keegan, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Can you tell us more about what we are seeing in that clip?
Yeah, so I wanted to start out with kind of some stereotypical symbols that people might associate with psychics or with fortune tellers. And then I kind of move in and hone in on my subject, Tina Lupazovich, who is a Madison psychic. And we kind of see what her space looks like, some of her processes. And then we kind of end with, just the thesis of my story, that if you don't believe in psychics, you're missing out. And we get a good punch of her character, I think.
Why did you decide to tell this story?
So I was really struggling for the longest time trying to pick my documentary topic. And Pat, our instructor, just kept enforcing, tell a story that you want to tell, something that you're interested in. And I was like, I've always been really interested in horoscopes and tarot cards. And I know from experience, even if people don't necessarily believe in those things, it's something that amuses people. And so I figured it would be a fun story to tell. And I think I just had a really great, entertaining subject and interview subject, I guess. And so it was just a really fun story to tell.
Did you face many skeptics then as you produced it, and how did that change your process if you did?
Yeah, so a lot of people in this class even were like, I don't believe, but maybe you can convince me. And one of the people in my documentary is a good friend who simply does not believe in psychics at all. And so when I was kind of editing it and crafting the story behind it, I kind of had him in mind and what he might think and ways I could convince him otherwise. So I think having those skeptics present in my life really helped me formulate the story.
All right, so the question you had to ask then is, how are you going to do on this project? Did we get any indication to what the future might hold for you or for the documentary itself?
Right. So after I filmed, I was kind of packing up my gear. Tina always pulled a few cards, which was always kind of fun for me. And, like one of the last days of filming, I was just kind of doubting myself. I was like, I don't know if I have enough footage, whatever. And she was just essentially pulling cards that said, don't doubt yourself. You need to trust the process. So regardless if I'm going to win any awards or not, she definitely encouraged me to, keep going forward with it because she saw it as a very successful project.
Excellent. Well, congratulations on tackling an interesting subject. And I suppose, we'll see what the future does hold for this. Thanks so much, Keegan.
Thank you.
Now let's take a look at a clip from our next student film, which looks at the past and the future for two brothers who play hockey. In From D-Town to D1, Ryan Terrell looks at the Donovan brothers.
What's up? Come on in. Shea Donovan, sophomore defenseman at the University of Wisconsin from Duluth, Minnesota. Oldest member of class of 23, 21-year-old freshman.
Hey guys, Ryder Donovan here. I'm from Duluth, Minnesota. I'm a sophomore forward here for the Badgers at the University of Wisconsin. And if I had to pride myself on one thing, it's that I am Dylan Holloway's personal therapist, not licensed. Coming together here just made us way closer than we ever were before. And it kind of reminds me back of when we were younger and being together every day, so it's pretty cool.
When you want to live on Langdon, but you just can't. Yeah. These are the posters you put up around it. Yeah. Make yourself feel like we're beauties. Yeah, we're beauties.
Who's got better style?
We pretty much share a closet. I think he just loots all of my clothes, so I guess I have to win that one.
Shay says that you steal all of his clothes and he has much better style than you. True or false?
Yeah, that's probably true. This is his shirt, actually. So,
Ryder set up. These are all the clothes he steals from me right in here. Probably tell you how many of these are mine. Either that or I'll just walk in. Which ones are mine? He's out traveling right now, so honestly, three's low. That's a disappointingly low number, but he's traveling right now, so I know he's got them all.
When they get mad at each other, it's unbelievable to see them scrap like little two babies. They start crying and scrapping like that.
So, what was your reaction when you found out that Shay would be joining you here at Wisconsin?
I was pretty pissed, I didn't. No, it was pretty cool.
That was From D-Town to D1, Story of Two Brothers Hockey Journey. It was produced by student filmmaker Ryan Terrell. Ryan joins me now. Welcome, Ryan.
Hi. Thank you.
Hi there. Yeah. Why did you pick the Donovan brothers for this project?
So I first met Ryder and Shay back in August. And when Pat first told us about this assignment, and I kind of figured out that I wanted to do it on collegiate athletes and their journey throughout battling COVID, I really imagined myself doing it with a lot of athletes, but I had that connection with Ryder, so I messaged him about it, and he told me that him and Shay would be interested, and I started having all these ideas about a story with two brothers going through this journey together, like being in college together, but also being student athletes during COVID, which is what my initial idea was about. And I have 3 brothers, and I would have given anything to be able to go to college with any of them. And so I was always kind of jealous that they had that. And when I saw that I had this opportunity to tell a story about brothers like experiencing college together and going through this, it was just an opportunity I really didn't want to pass up. And like learning through all their relationships and stuff, it definitely made me reflect on my relationship with my brothers.
Yeah, after completing this, certainly this year has been hard for everyone, but what do you think makes this so hard for athletes in particular?
I think there's a lot of pressure on athletes to succeed in their sport, and collegiate athletes especially, they still have the schoolwork that we all have. And then this year especially, like everyone had to break out of their routines. But for athletes, they've gotten so used to their routines. They've trained the same way for at least the last 18 years to get to college. And for a lot of guys on the hockey team, for example, this is their chance to show off for the NHL scouts, the people at the next level. Ryder's been drafted and he's playing for a contract right now. And I think when you have so much less to showcase, like he didn't get to go to his training camp with the Golden Knights this year because of COVID. And then also athletes are just under much stricter quarantine. I mean, students probably shouldn't have gone out too much this year, but we know they did. But athletes really couldn't. They were much stricter punishments. So it was really just in your apartment or your dorm and then to the practice facilities, do your homework. And those are the only places you can go. So I think it's just mentally tolling just to say you have to be in this place, this place, this place, nowhere else.
Yeah, you did capture some of the fun that they had, though. Can you tell us about some of the more humorous moments?
Yeah, definitely. So I think anytime you talk about the relationship of 2 brothers, you're going to get in on some of their inside jokes kind of and see their brotherly jabs. I actually interviewed Ryder and Shay completely separately for this project, and they didn't see what the other one said about it. And in Ryder's interview, and you'll see this in the final documentary, he talked about a time where he got in a huge fight with his mom, and his mom told him to leave the house, and Shay came in, tried to intervene and calm Ryder down, but he didn't elaborate on what he actually did. And I showed the clip to Shay and got it on film, and Shay kind of elaborated on the story, and he talks about how when Ryder was 5, he stole money out of his mom's purse, and I actually had to bite my hand while shooting to stop from laughing. It was just so funny. But even watching them interact with each other, their roommates, like they're both just like down to earth, like really funny guys. The whole process was hilarious, and I just like the entire time could not stop laughing. I really enjoyed it.
What was your biggest takeaway from the project as you pursue a career in sports media?
I think just how flexible the sports world is. Everything is adapting. Everything is on the fly. And while we were shooting, the hockey team's equipment manager actually tested positive for COVID. So we had to go in a shutdown and we had to stop shooting completely. And so just being able to adapt to that, they were stuck in a hotel. And I just think it just gives the bigger picture of the sports world in general. Everything's changing. And so I was learning to be flexible and adapting with the situation at hand. But also, this was my first time really working with athletes. I've had jobs in sports before, but never working hand in hand with athletes. And I think anyone who grows up wanting to work in sports, they kind of put athletes on a pedestal, and it stems from a fan thing. But being able to work with these guys and seeing just, yeah, they are on their way to the NHL, but they're still people too. It really helped me take some of the fan out of it and realize it's a much more professional and business-like approach to this, which I think will definitely benefit me going forward. So I'm really grateful for this experience.
Yeah, those are a lot of great takeaways. Best of luck to you, Ryan, and thanks for being with us today.
Thank you.
Next up, we have the struggle to study the arts, and you can't practice because of the pandemic. Student filmmaker Zoe Klein focuses on the fine arts community in a clip from The Show Must Go On.
The past year has been very difficult, to say the least. There have not been any public performances in well over a year.
My name is Libby Ledoux. I am a junior studying communications and theater.
My name is Alana. I play the French horn, and I'm taking a gap year right now, but I will be a 5th year.
My name is Amelia. I play the oboe, and I'm a senior this year.
We did the best we could.
One thing that definitely stands out is like the I don't know, like we can't meet outside of class to rehearse. We have to go to like be there at specific times. So that's a little sucky, but
All winds and brass have been entirely virtual, so there's been like no collaborative like performances or rehearsals or anything at all.
it kind of feels like a lost semester.
I just try to tell them, I hope that I've told them anyways, how grateful we are that they've stuck with it. And we acknowledge that it's tough and we don't sugarcoat the situation. We acknowledge the situation, we do the best we can, but we also have hope for the future. So we're able to hold on to that too.
That was a brief look at Zoe Klein's film, The Show Must Go On, and Zoe joins us now to talk about it. Welcome, Zoe.
Hi.
Hi there. What interested you in the fine arts community to start with, and why did you choose to cover it for this documentary?
Yeah, so I'm currently completing a certificate in graphic design, which has required me to take a couple art classes, including one this semester. So this semester has been really difficult in terms of the lack of actual lab time, and it kind of got me thinking about other kind of unconventional majors or classes that have really had to change and adapt to work virtually, and then have been really suffering from the lack of in-person interaction. And I know everyone's kind of tired about hearing about COVID, but I felt like it would be kind of a shame if I didn't cover something related to that.
Yeah. Are there people from the fine arts community that you wish had a bigger voice in your final project?
Yeah, I wish that I could have showcased like vocal performance students or those involved in certain choral classes, because I wasn't able to really get in touch with any of those groups, or they had closed practices or whatnot. Just because I think that vocal performances are one of those things that are really difficult to work or make work over video or Zoom, especially considering connectivity issues and all of that, I would say.
Yeah. How did this all happening during COVID-19 really affect your process?
It was really difficult. I conducted a lot of Zoom interviews, which obviously doesn't produce the most interesting footage. And I also had some students who were willing to be interviewed, but because of COVID and everything, they didn't want to take off their masks, or they needed to be at a distance, or all of that. And also it was hard because a lot of the professors weren't conducting in-person classes or in-person practices, or if they were, it was like a max of 6 people or 10 people, and it was all students who were directly involved in that. So that hindered a lot of the filming, which was hard.
Yeah. Did this documentary sort of expand your knowledge or change any of your attitudes about this community?
I would say I just learned a lot more about the day-to-day for students who are really passionate and committed to the fine arts, and students that intend to pursue things like music and performance professionally. So I feel like I definitely gained a lot of respect for the students and the professors and faculty and all of that who have kept going and like persevered through the past year.
Perseverance is the name of the game. Excellent work, Zoe, on this film. Thanks for chatting with us.
Thank you.
Now for something a little different. Our next student film looks at the world of drag from another perspective. Inner Diva is about the passion and the preparation for the divas on the stage. Here's a clip from the film by Elise O'Brien.
Are you ready to see these lovely divas? Give it up for everybody's favorite canceled queen, Persephone B. Diamond!
I love doing drag. I love performing. I love being on stage. And when you get paid to do what you love, it just makes it even better.
Bringing next to the stage, the incomparable Becky Essence Hall.
I want to be a star and have the world see me.
Give it up for Amethyst Ron. Through drag and this community, I sort of learned to be myself and share myself.
I just wanted to dance on stage, and I wanted people to see like my dancing. So it started there.
And give it up for the diva on the mic. She is your favorite bougie cousin on your daddy's side. Give it up for Anya.
I just wanted to like be artistic and like be able to express myself.
This is an insider's look behind the glamour and the creativity behind the artists in a drag show. Welcome to student filmmaker Elise O'Brien.
Thank you.
Hi there. Well, Elise, can you tell us a little bit more about drag and the drag that's featured in your show?
Yeah, so drag is a lot of different things, and it looks like different things for different people. But by just the fundamentals of it, it is an art form. So it is performance of people who are singing, lip syncing, dancing. It's fashion and makeup artistry. And it all comes together in this form of drag. And even though some people mistake it for just men in makeup, there's so much more to it. And it's an art form in which you can be anyone. And it's a freedom of expression without the limitations that are put in place in every other aspect of society.
Where did your inspiration for this story come from?
Yeah, so I've been watching quite a bit of, RuPaul's Drag Race and following these queens online. And so I'm just so intrigued and so interested, inspired by the passion and the creativity and the artistry that they bring to drag. So I, wanted to explore a little more that confidence and that strength that they find in themselves. So when we were asked to find a story and to, get to know some, community a little better, I, wanted to spend time with them. And drag is so much more than just like the 3-minute glamour of a lip sync performance on a Saturday night. And so I really wanted to explore that and that fun and excitement it's brought me, and be able to learn and showcase just that incredible talent that these performers have and that impact that it has.
Right. Sometimes the most interesting stories are behind this story. Are there aspects of the drag community that you didn't get to include in this story in particular, or that you'd want to explore further?
Yeah, there's quite a bit because drag is so different for everybody. So even I feel like my story just kind of scratched the surface, and I wanted to show the diverse community and get a little bit of, some different stories, but I would love to explore further each of these performers' experience and their journey with drag. Some in particular were very active in the social justice movements, and I would be excited to explore how they use that platform to make changes in our community, or other queens were a part of the burlesque community, so that's a whole nother level. And then you have drag kings and trans performers, non-binary and androgynous performers. So there's just so many different levels of it. So if we had a little more time than just 10 minutes, but I guess that'll have to be the next project.
I was going to say, we'll stay tuned for the next one. Thanks so much, Elise. It sounds like this was a really fun story, and you did a great job with it.
Thank you.
Now we're going to turn to school and looking at students with two very different life paths, not of their choosing. Here's a clip from the story called Graduates.
I got this internship last year. It was just an intern at the beginning, but I assume I will keep working here. Yeah, it will be my first formal job.
My current job is great. The colleagues are good. The salary is not bad.
一些东西我也很安全，也很方便，工作也好。女孩子当个记者，我觉得还是很不错的。
No, this is not what I plan to do after graduation. I planned to apply for a foreign graduate school. I guess it's kind of hard because my parents don't want me to.
我觉得出国读书，就是我们家长的意思啊，也不 不是什么好的主持。
Now I'm applying for graduate school in US. I'm learning every day, not only my school remote courses, but also like GRE courses.
我和他爸爸呢，没得出过国，没得在国外念过书。后来做生意啊，才发现这个会英语呢用处很大，出国那个开拓眼界呢。
No, I don't like what I'm doing right now. I don't want to apply for an US graduate school. Even I don't want to apply for a graduate school. I plan for work after graduation. I plan to get a job. I can't have a job because I think it's because of my parents.
他原来想呢，本科毕业呢就找工作，竞争力啊肯定没得人家那个读研究生的强。
That was from Graduates, produced by student filmmaker Cindy Liu. Welcome to the show, Cindy. Great to see you.
Hi, great to see you too.
Can you tell us a little bit about the expectations that parents have for students in China and how you showcase that here?
Yeah, so usually Chinese parents hope their children listen to them because they believe that they have more life experiences and therefore their children's good, so they're making the right decisions. Like in this story, like one pair of parents hope their daughter to stay in China and not to study abroad because they think their child could also learn things from work, while the other pair of parents want their daughter to study abroad because they believe based on their experiences, studying abroad can help with their daughter's future career.
So what about these students and their unique situations really interested you for this project?
Yeah, so I think like the most interesting part is that the two graduating students both have unexpected life plans after graduation, and one student's plan is the other student's original plan. So like one plan to study abroad after graduation while she now starts to work, and the other plan to work after graduation while she now studies for her graduate school application. And although they have different life situations, the reasons behind their unexpected life plans are the same, which is their parents' expectations. And so I think the whole story is sort of like two different lines, but they have one crossing point.
That's so interesting, especially how the outcomes ended up being so different. I understand that you have prior experience with videography. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. So I've taken another class and learned how to shoot videos and edit stuff. But that class, the focus was more on how to write and edit fictional stories. So sort of like a short narration film. And I think like documentary is a whole new field for me to explore. And I really enjoy learning different types of videography. So I think shooting and editing are just so fascinating.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us today, and great work on your sharing your perspective in Graduates.
Thank you.
We'll turn now to another story about life's challenges in a story called Turning Point.
Korea is a country with strong academic zeal and a private education craze around the world. Korean parents are investing with a lot of enthusiasm, hoping that their children will go to top universities. Then what are the opinions of the students? Here is a student who wandered around with antipathy to strong pressure from his parents and the Korean education system.
방황의 계기라고 하면은 높은 성적임에도 불구하고 부모님의 이제 의대 진학에 관한 압박, 그리고 이제 계속 최상의 성적 만점에 대한 압박 같은 것에 대해서 반감을 가지게 되어서 이제 방황을 시작하게 된 것 같습니다.
진짜 큰 누구야? 재민아. 야. 재민이 글자는 뭐?
시간이 흘러감에 따라 다소 다른 것 같은데 요즘 같은 시간은 자녀가 많은 자녀를 두고 있는 부모가 아니라 자녀가 보통 한 명 내지 두 명이다 보니까 한 아이한테 투자를 좀 많이 하는 편인 것 같고요. 과거에 비해서 실제 그 아이가 할 수 있는 여력이 된다면 그 아이의 성공을 통해서 부모가 위로받는 부분도 있는 것 같고, 그 아이가 잘 되게 하기 위해서 말 그대로 서울권 대학을 가야 된다 또는 좋은 학과를 가야 된다는 데 초점을 맞춰서 조기 교육부터 이루어진다고 생각을 해요.
That was a clip from Turning Point from our next student filmmaker, Yoni Sim. And Yoni joins us now. Welcome.
Hi, Rick. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, these scenes in the clip are from a cram school. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that is?
Yeah, the cram school is called hagwon in Korean language. The purpose of sending children to cram school are for like supplementary education that many children need to keep up with the regular school curriculum, like preparing for the high school and the university entry examinations. Also, like children of old ages often attend the cram school, even like preschool aged children, because their parents believe that it is good to receive like early education from a young age. Like most of their curriculums are pre-requisite learning. Like elementary school students are learning the secondary curriculum for prerequisite learning, and the high school students are learning more higher curriculum for preparing the university entry exam. And there are more than like 10 million cram schools in South Korea, and more than 50% of cram schools' curriculums are focusing on preparing for the specialized high school or the top universities or the medical schools.
Wow, that's so interesting. What are the specific messages that you want to deliver to those of us who may not know a lot about the Korean education system?
Yeah, actually, I graduated the high school until the high school in Korea, and I went to the study abroad to the US after that. So I really wanted to tell about the Korean education system's problems for the people. Like Korean education system is not caring and respecting its students' interest or like autonomy, and tends to try to lock our kids in the same frame, like the student have to enter the top universities or the medical schools and have to get a good grade, like focusing on studying a lot. And the lesson I'd like to share with the audience who watching my video was that the direction of our life, and such as what kind of study we want to study and what kind of life we want to live, like it's our own decisions, like not from our parents or anyone else. Like only like good grades and top university cannot make our life happy. Like above all, like our will and sense of like goal are the important thing in our life, and when we are in like high school or in college.
If you made another episode of this story, what other stories do you believe you'd find?
Like if I make a second episode, like I would like to focus on like how the Korean education system like would be changed by like interviewing experts in the education field in the future, like as the pandemic has started and changed our life, like bringing MOOC system, like virtual learning and e-learning education systems.
Thank you so much for sharing more about this educational journey, Yoni. What a wonderful film. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Now we move to our next film. We've known what causes stress, but what is the effect of that stress on the human body? Our next film is Stressed.
Stress is an adaptive process. So even though we don't always feel like stress is a good thing, it's adaptive in the sense that it's a part of our bodies that helps to keep us safe. Stress can have some pretty serious complications, and some of those complications can include anxiety and depression.
A time that I was really stressed out was really last year, in my sophomore year of college. I just was going through a really tough time, and it was tough because on the outside there was nothing really like contributing factors to why I was like I was stressed. I experienced the same amount of academic and professional workload, and on the outside it seemed like, why am I just feeling extra stressed now? But it was a time when I think even just mentally I was like having a depressive episode. The work that I do on campus is just extremely stressful because we deal with topics that are heavy. We deal with topics about racism and oppression, and just overall feeling the discrimination against people of color on this campus. You know, those are the topics I deal with on a daily basis. I know my race plays a role in my stress levels. It's really hard to not be stressed in a place that you don't feel welcomed and included.
Kim Leadholm is now here to talk to us about her documentary. We just watched a clip from their Stress. Kim, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Why did you want to create a video about stress?
Yeah, I decided to create a video about stress because I know this past year I've been experiencing a lot of stress. I think with classes moving online and starting new semesters and looking for jobs and internships, and especially the COVID-19 pandemic, I've been experiencing a lot of stress, and I think a lot of people have. So I was kind of wondering, what are the consequences of stress? And is it bad on the body to have high levels of stress for long extended periods of time? And that was something I really wanted to answer with this film, and that was the goal of my video.
Were there any big changes that you ended up making to your story along the way?
Yeah, well, although there wasn't any massive plot changes, I had planned on interviewing one of my good friends who has had quite a few health complications related to stress. And I actually, after looking back on the footage, realized that not a lot of it was feasible because her and I are often joking around and we had laughs in between takes. So when I would look back on the footage, I would see that she would be talking about something really serious, like having really bad stomach problems related to stress, but she would be holding back a smile and trying not to laugh. So after looking back, I realized that might not be the best interview subject, and I worked on finding someone else, which I think worked out really well.
That's a really good call. What was your favorite part about making this film?
I think my favorite part about making this film would have to be meeting my interview subjects. Carrie Fanning was one of the people that I talked to about the logistics of stress, and she was super interesting and fun to talk to, and I really think I learned a lot from our conversation. I also really enjoyed talking to Juliana Bennett and meeting her for the first time. It was really fun keeping in touch with her throughout the semester, and she was actually running for District 8 Alder in the election, so it was fun to see her win as we have been talking and keeping in touch, and just seeing her win and able to congratulate her and keep in touch throughout the semester was awesome.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Kim, for sharing this perspective and sharing this documentary with us.
Yeah, thank you. Have a great one.
Now, let's talk about an impact of a different kind, the impact of the fashion industry on the environment. Here's a clip from Hidden Cost.
Droughts in California, and so it was always a thing when I was younger, like take short showers, like conserve water, and I think that was something that was kind of just like drilled into my brain because we had like the worst droughts, and so that's something that I kind of like got really into, and I always would be like, okay, I'm gonna like every time I like shampoo or wash my hair, I'm gonna turn off the water so I can help save the environment. To Santa when I was younger, saying like all I want for Christmas is for Santa to save the environment.
Sophia Westover is here now with her documentary, Hidden Cost. Fashion, of course, isn't something that we typically associate with the environment, nor do we see people necessarily changing their fashion choices to make a positive environmental footprint. Sophia, can you tell us a little bit more about what your overall goal was with this piece when you began to approach it?
Yeah, so growing up, I always knew I kind of wanted to work somehow in the fashion industry, whether it's on like communications or I don't know, more of the business side. But over the past few years, I've become more aware of how much of a detrimental impact it has on the environment. And I'm seeing so many of my friends and just people around me who, even if they are aware of the impact it has on the environment, don't really know how to change and how to start going about that. So I wanted to start by looking at like alternative opportunities and just interviewing people who have started to make changes in their own habits to help like share resources for other people.
So what kind of changes have you made to your own clothing consumption to sort of create a better environmental footprint?
So I started off just by trying to shop less. I definitely used to shop a lot more. But now I've looked a lot more towards secondhand purchases. So like online things like The Real or Depop or just vintage stores in general. But what's interesting that I learned while making this is that even when you are purchasing secondhand, there's so many other like factors that go into the impact on the environment. So doing laundry. So I'm much more conscious now about how often I'm doing my laundry and trying to just be a more conscious wearer as well as consumer.
What other resources did you learn about that are out there to help people sort of learn how they can change their habits?
So one first that I was already aware of, I used to write for an outlet called Attire Media. And so they do a lot of compilations of different places you can shop ethically and sustainably. But one really great resource I came across during filming was one of the interview subjects who has her own sustainable clothing brand. Part of her website is resources for people. So that's goodconsciousnewyork.com. And she breaks down sustainable fashion and the environment in a very digestible way for people who don't have the scientific background the way I don't have that. So it was a great resource for me as well.
Great. Well, thank you for that unique look into the fashion industry. Thanks, Sophia.
Thank you so much.
And now for a look at a journey for several people who have made music their futures. Here's a clip from Stockton Social.
For the most part, like grew up, I mean, it sounds kind of cliche to say grew up in a broken home because that just sounds whiny as hell, but like kind of. I mean, my parents, divorced when I was 3. My mom was like a Mexican immigrant, and she was a single mom trying to put food on the table for my brother and I, and for the most part trying to take care of bills by herself. So I mean, it wasn't like the most glorious upbringing necessarily, like we went from a lot of like apartment buildings and a lot of like government funding and even like food pantry Christmases and shit. I don't know if you know about that, but that is not punk rock.
That first rap that I put out, that Knock Knock remix, it actually got 50,000. It got picked up by some Tumblr blog, Mac Miller Tumblr blog, and it ended up getting like 50,000 views. And I was like, maybe there's something to this. For a reason, I'd agree with that. Lay a verse on a track, rewind it, play it back. Okay, I'm whack, I'm still standing up, you're spitting while you. But I was just very self-conscious at the time about my peers in my high school, like, oh, that's a kid who wants to be a rapper, I don't know. I was very self-conscious, and I never really put my best foot forward until I graduated. And that's kind of when I met up with David for the first time. Anywhere else, I just don't think that it would have, I don't know. There's a reason I came back to David when I wanted to make my album. I don't think I would have gotten it from anybody else, anywhere else, It's just one of those things, fate kind of thing.
Joining me is Nathan Denzine, who produced Stockton Social as a story about musicians who overcome adversity to create music they are deeply involved in. Welcome, Nathan.
Hi.
Hi there. What gave you the idea to create a documentary about the people in this house?
Yeah, so I've known David since high school, and I pretty much followed his work ever since then. I knew him when he was making, really bad amateur type music. And to see him grow now into this just incredibly professional artist has just been incredible. And I think that when people think of, say, SoundCloud rappers, or if you think of somebody who's on Spotify who doesn't have many followers, you think of pretty poor, like not very well executed music. And I just wanted to show that that wasn't the case at all, that these guys make some just incredible music, and that they have the passion and the stories behind that music to really back up the work that they do.
What was the environment like while they were making music?
Yeah, so it really depends, because obviously they're very happy, they're very excited, energetic when they first sit down to start on something. And I saw that kind of firsthand myself. And then when things start to go wrong, it can get a little tense, because all of these guys care a lot about how their music sounds and how it ends up. So when things maybe don't go right, people can get angry at each other, people can kind of get at each other's throats. But then again, at the end of the day, these guys are all the best of friends, and they're all doing what they love together. So the environment is very welcoming and very supportive of all of them and the work that they do.
Do any of those struggles that you talk about, that you were able to witness, show up in the music that they make?
Yeah, absolutely they do. And these guys have just some crazy stories from their past too, to where they're to get where they are now. And those struggles absolutely show up in their music. They talk explicitly about it sometimes, or they will, mention it in songs and stuff. But I think really the biggest takeaway that you can get from their music, the struggles that they put into their music, is how professional it sounds and how good it sounds when it comes out. I mean, these guys have been in bad situations before, and they want their music to be what takes them out of these bad situations. So it's really cool to see the quality of work that they produce.
Maybe the sign of a true artist to be able to do something like that. Much, Nathan, for this great documentary and for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you.
That wraps up our sneak preview of the work in Cutting Class. If you want to see Nathan's and any of the other student-produced films in their entirety, go to our website, Cutting Class, at cuttingclass2021.journalism.wisc.edu. You can also learn more about all of our student filmmakers and the class at that site. I want to thank you for supporting the University of Wisconsin-Madison by watching this show. This is a perfect example of the excellent work being done by educators and students on this campus. For all the students and for their instructor, Pat Hastings, and director, Peter Kleppen, I want to thank you for watching again, and as always, on Wisconsin.